What's good, YouTube? Well, you rarely get white folks to admit that the invasion of America by Europeans was an invasion. I got into a discussion at work with a white man, and he pretty much told me that Europeans did not invade America. And kind of threw me back, because what do you call it? You don't call a cow a pig. You don't call a pig a horse. You call shit what the fuck it is. If I break into your house and steal all of your property, I invaded your space. I invaded you. And one thing I notice is that a lot of white folks love to make certain things acceptable for them that's not acceptable for other groups of people, particularly black people. We're labeled as criminal, savages, uncivilized. I tell you, the 44 trick is real. The magic trick is very real. But check out what this white guy says as far as this land here in America. I want you to pay attention to the analogy he uses.
What's good, y'all? It's called, I've been very frustrated with Europeans, with people that look like me and who share ancestral lineage with me. My primary frustration is we've been so severely miseducated, we don't know how to think, and we've been stripped of our ability to use logic and reason. Also, we sit on a pedestal of slavery and colonization, and we sit so high, even those of us who are busting our ass all day, every day, working nonstop, we sit so high on a pedestal of slavery that we can't even see the world for what it truly is. And if we had the gun to our head or the threat of rape at our doorstep every day, we would feel the same sense of urgency that the rest of the world feels, or that colonized peoples who are confined to these artificial borders of the United States feel. So let's be very clear. This land is not the Europeans. It never has been. It never will be. What's going down in Standing Rock, what's going down with this new administration is a continuation of 600 years of colonial theft. And I think it's, there's only one example I can think of that really illustrates this. I was talking to a 7-year-old in my family a couple weeks ago, and we were actually talking about this very thing, about stealing land from the indigenous people. And the 7-year-old goes, nobody's taking my land, European kid, by the way, nobody's taking my land, I got a gun. I said, you ain't got no gun. He said, I got a 45. I said, you don't have a 45. He said, no, I got a Nerf gun. I said, okay, let me break this down for you then. Let's say little Ricky, 2 houses down, comes and steals your Nerf gun. Is that his Nerf gun? He was like, no, it's my Nerf gun. He stole that from me. I was like, word. Well, it's his now, so deal with it. Ricky grows up, has a kid, and gives that Nerf gun to that kid. Now, is it that kid's Nerf gun? He said, no, it's still my Nerf gun. He took it from me. I said, he didn't take it from you. His dad did. He's only known that Nerf gun was his whole life. How could you take that back from him? He's like, nah, it's mine. I want it back. I said, okay, fine. Let's play this out a little bit longer. So little Ricky's kid has a kid when he gets older, and he gives him that Nerf gun. Is it still your Nerf gun? He was like, yeah, it's always been my Nerf gun. Just because he passed it along to a different guy doesn't mean that it's not mine. I said, well, then perfect. This isn't our land. It never has been. It never will be. And until we return it, any sort of solidarity that we feel with black and indigenous people is a fucking joke. Unless you're willing to give back what you never earned, you are a opportunist and a liar. And if you are not even willing to admit that this isn't ours in the first place, you're a fool. And I'm not saying this, maybe I'm saying this because I'm fucking frustrated, and I am, because you guys are better than this. If a 7-year-old can figure out this logic,
He's talking to you, black people.
And I want more for you. I believe that we have the ability to fucking think. We have the ability to say, oh shit, okay, yeah, it's getting hot out here. It's getting very, very hot. There's clearly something wrong. Oh wait, I'm in the middle of this? Oh, maybe I have some sort of responsibility here. Maybe I have some sort of responsibility. Oh, literally every article of clothing I have, literally every piece of food I eat is stolen? Damn, and the people who are mining these raw materials, who are sowing these goods, who are harvesting these foods, they're not even able to eat these foods? They're not even able to wear clothes or have shoes? You gotta be kidding me, man. None of you are that selfish. I hope none of you are that selfish, man. None of this shit is ours. We gotta give it back. I mean, I was taught that my whole life. How was I raised in a Christian society that taught me, thou shalt not steal?
And then you turn around and
stolen, and we're unwilling to give it back. And I understand you said you didn't. I bought this. I worked hard my whole life to buy this. Sure, you might have worked your entire life. You might have busted your ass. I know I busted my ass.
Hey, you know the sad thing about this whole situation is that black folks don't realize that they are the indigenous people of America. But they get the hardest time in America. Oh, but we give you a Black History Month. I wonder why. Hey, the shit is ill. The shit is very ill. And not only that, the man was raised a Christian. And what did Christianity teach you? What's one of the what? The 10 Commandments? Thou shalt. They fuck up all the 10 Commandments. I mean, they don't went against every last one of them. Thou shalt not steal. But it's acceptable for them to steal. Thou shalt not lie. Well, it's acceptable for them to lie because you gotta lie in order to steal. You gotta steal in order to lie. It's ass backwards, I'll tell you that much. But in hand with what he was saying, there's a documentary. I don't know if too many people have seen it. I haven't seen anyone repost it on Facebook. It's called Speakers for the Dead.
Robinhood is an investing app.
This documentary is so deep if you read in between the lines. It's telling you a lot about your people. Then shout out to Lex Will. Lex Will did some good research on Canada. Tied it in with Canaanites, Canada. I gotta get back into Lex Will. I haven't had too much time to really sit down and dig and research a lot, but I'm gonna get back there. But this documentary, Speakers for the Dead, is very interesting. I'm gonna play some parts of it so you can see what I'm saying. Mind you, this video was put out by the let's see, here it is, from the National Film Board of Canada. The National Film Board of Canada.
I'm not too sure it's a good thing to start talking about possibilities. I've heard stories.
I don't feel comfortable going to Graceville at all. I'm very nervous out there. And I just don't feel right.
This lady right here, my heart go out to her and her ancestors. Sad.
Out there, even though we have ancestors out there. There were over 200 signatures on a petition not to disturb the place. Leave it quiet, leave it as it is. And nobody showed up today.
Now, we're not into a civil war around here. We're not fighting with each other openly. So there is some decorum that Canadians have achieved, even in struggles like this. But the misrepresentation of information can stagger you sometimes.
Today, there's no distinction on where a person is buried, meaning all peoples are buried in cemeteries or placed in crypts, regardless of their color or nationality. But once upon a time, we were buried in cemeteries of our own.
McKinnon. When I was in grade.
And before I go any further, I want to put a fair use warning up. This video is used for educational purposes only. No monetization is coming from this video at all. All educational purposes only. Now I can continue.
Grey County. And I told with some pride that Irish and Scottish settlers were the first non-native settlers in Grey County. It took me a good portion of the rest of my life up till now to realize that was bogus, that it was a lie of a sort, but I took every available document, every book that I could find, and seemingly they all had this.
You heard what he said. He was told that the earlier settlers, Irish and the Scottish, were the first settlers in Canada. That's a bullshit lie.
Same, almost verbatim, that Irish and Scottish settlers were the first non-native settlers in Grey County. But then stories were told to me about some of those early Scottish families that moved into southern Grey, particularly around Priceville, and how some of them had written letters back home to relatives in Scotland and described the dark people that they met here when they arrived.
Hello? Hello? Who could these dark-skinned people be, possibly? We're talking about before Europeans even stepped foot upon this land. When these people came into Canada, these settlers, these Irish and Scottish settlers wrote letters back home to Europe about the description of these dark-skinned people that was in the land that they came invaded. Remember that.
My name's Carolyn Smarts, and I'm an archaeologist. Just a few miles west of here is the area of Priceville, which we know to have been a black community in about 1835. In the early 1830s, maybe even the late 1820s, there was a settlement of black families that moved up here, probably from the Queensbush area in Wellesley Township, the Waterloo Township, the Brantford area, probably in that area. They moved up to a part of southern Ontario along Highway 4, just west of Flesherton.
Why do these people have to move up to this area? And she keeps saying probably. I'm trying to tell you, you gotta watch out for these slick motherfuckers. Probably. No, bitch, do you know for sure? And if you don't know for sure, then you should just shut up. Because all of that land wasn't just there unoccupied. So come on, like I said, you gotta read in between the lies.
To become the old Durham Road, and in fact, the local oral history says that some of them were veterans of the War of 1812 who had fought on the side of the Crown, the War of 1812, and had been given land, or been told they were going to be given land that was actually not ever granted.
They were Native Americans. They were the indigenous people of that land, and they need to stop lying.
My name is Stuart Muir, and I live at a suburb of Owen Sound, 6 Corners. Well, it'd just be hearsay, you know. someone tells the other person. You hear it in a community. You know how things go. And you'd hear about this, and you'd hear about Colonel Price. I didn't know. I thought Colonel Price was a white man for a long time, and it turned out he wasn't. He was a colored guy. And I knew that Colonel Price, I'd been told. I didn't know. I was told that Colonel Price was instrumental in bringing quite a few of the colored people up to the Priceville area.
Priceville is not mentioned. The settlers of the old Durham Road are not mentioned in the very few books on general black history in Canada.
Of course not.
There is a overriding conspiracy, a non-conspiracy maybe, of silence in the community where people just don't talk about it. And that's the way they were trained. Don't talk. If you don't say it, it doesn't exist. And a lot of them were hushed up when they were kids. All my life.
Oh, I'm Helen Miller, and I live in Collingwood.
And I'm Alan Miller. I live in Collingwood.
Oh, go ahead, Helen, because I don't remember how.
My great-grandfather, Green, he was born out there in Priceville. And through the relations, they said that he was buried there. I don't know if my father was born out there or not. Everything was so secret. Like, it's hard to get anything out of our parents, because they were still in that hiding stage. And they never said too much anything. So you more or less had to pick, find little things out.
My name is Elise Harding Davis. I'm the curator administrator of the North American Black Historical Museum. I'm a 7th generation Canadian. Parts of my family have been here since 1798. We came to Canada.
1798. 1798.
To embrace a type of freedom that was denied us throughout the whole of North America. Oftentimes we weren't necessarily appreciated. We weren't necessarily wanted. But by keeping a low profile, by keeping our own counsel, actually being secretive in the way we conducted ourselves, we were able to survive. And that stood us very well. We were so able to blend into the mainstream, people forgot we existed. Many people are told blacks only arrived here in the last 1 or 2 generations, but we've been here for a solid 200-300 years, and we are
more.
part of what Canada stands for.
Longer than that. Longer than 300 years.
The people along the old Durham Road were there for probably 20 to 30 years, and then there was a diminution in the population, probably because local white settlers were forcing them out.
I do think that there was one story I did hear that it was kind of mean that they just walk in and take all the head and get out of here. No, that's not too fair in a way, I wouldn't think.
The whites got deeds and that to the land and everything, which we didn't get. They just moved in and kept pushing them back.
And that problem, that tension between the black and white community continued right through the 1930s in that area until almost everyone who had been part of the Priceville settlement had gone.
I have nothing in my memory that would indicate that they would not be treated well, that they would not be treated just the same as your next door neighbor. There were people in the community That's my recollection. That is the way my own people would look on them.
Well, they just be pushed off. When you go out of here, that was all understood. They didn't have no deeds, no nothing, and that'd be it. It was, I've often heard some of the old timers say it was a shame that they were used the way they were. Now that's all I can tell you.
A lot of the families settled on land that was uncharted, that was unassigned. They squatted. They didn't own their land. And even though they tried to purchase it later, the land had already been divided and allocated, and because probably they were black, largely, the land agents were very unsympathetic to their situation. Even though they had cleared large amounts of their land, they had built homes, in many, many cases, African Canadian settlers were forced off their land.
I don't think they thought that we were human. I think this was the whole thing. Because why could the other people come in and get all this and we got nothing?
When it was theirs from the beginning. It was theirs from the beginning. That's what they did here in the States. They take your shit and make you apply for your shit again. Where they do that?
There's also some very sad oral history in this area about people actually being forced through violence to leave their homes. And that happened at Priceville. Where there had been black settlement eventually had smaller communities or no community at all, like it did at Priceville. Consequently, the cemetery is left behind. So you have a black cemetery, a black history of an area that is the only example of that, the only sign of that community's existence is the cemetery that's remaining.
My name is Joyce Grimes. I moved to the Old Durham Road, River Out Street, Priceville, when I was 9 years old in 1940 with my mother, who subsequently married Billy Reed. And I lived there for several years and worked on the farm with my stepfather. I went to school at the Darky Schoolhouse, they called it then, on the Old Durham Road.
Funny, eh?
And one day while we were working on the farm, I asked my stepfather why that corner of the field was fenced off. And he said, well, it was a black cemetery. And I said, well, what happened to the tombstones, or was there any?
My recollection of that cemetery is that it was just a field, part of the farm. They had cattle, sheep pasturing on it. It was just a pasture field. And it was later on, I don't remember when Bill Reed plowed it up and maybe put some potatoes on it.
We raised very good potatoes on that
Listen to this
particular
shit.
piece of land. They were excellent. They lasted well through the winter. They were good, big potatoes. We never had to buy any.
I bet. This is genocide at its finest. This is why when the guy at work told me, well, you can't say that we invaded America. Well, what the fuck do you call it? Because within you invading a land and taking it, a lot of murder, a lot of bloodshed happened. Like this lady, she's so nonchalant. We raised some nice big potatoes on that farm. We never had to buy any. Like, where is the fucking emotion, the heart at? Where is the feeling? Just being conscious of right and wrong.
This Reed man was like I don't know what you'd call him. He didn't have any respect for anybody.
Bill? he was outgoing. I doubt would be too sentimental about the people who were buried there. He wasn't just given to that sort of thing.
My name is June McLaughlin. I was born in this general area. Well, I remember my parents talking about the time when the cemetery was turned into a potato patch. Actually, I guess there was nothing the neighbors could do. I mean, that was on private land, and you can't go in and tell someone else what to do with his or her land.
Obviously, you can. When it's us, you can. You understand what I'm saying? These people are crazy.
That block of wood was too big, and this was something flat. Just parts of stones. There's broken pieces. Because we used one, it was convenient. We played ball over at the schoolyard, and we used one for home plate. Yeah, name was on too. Oh yeah, picture to Maggie. Yeah, we used to say that. I think it was Margaret. I even remember I was playing ball over there a little bit, but it didn't lend itself to that because there were still, grave markings to some extent.
My father had heard about it, and they were upset. But what could they do? Their word just wasn't heard upon. They couldn't fight. How could they fight when they were put down so much? You don't know what would happen to them, their families, or anything, because they would be desecrated as well. Kind of a difficult thing to fathom, honestly. Cemeteries are supposed to be consecrated spaces. The remains of the people buried there are supposed to be hallowed. However, when you continue and you go back to the systemic and traditional thinking of people, desecrations can happen.
We had a group of interested volunteer citizens who felt that there was a need to address a gap in our local history. We had the founding meeting in my family home. The committee's work between November of 1989 and October of 1990 was focused on establishing that the cow pasture that was really a cemetery became public domain.
I had often thought there should be something done at the cemetery, and I was only too glad to join a committee to go ahead and see what we could do about restoring the cemetery there.
The committee set out to reclaim the cemetery as a cemetery, clean it up, beautify it if possible, and which is not easy because ground over there is not that great.
When our committee formed, one of the things that we had set for a priority was to try and locate descendants of those early black pioneers who we believe to be buried in that cemetery.
My great-grandfather Green was buried out there, and we'd like to find out more of the history of the Green side of the family. So that's why we joined the committee, to see what we could find out.
And I joined because of Mr. Handy, and I'd like to try and find out where he is related
These
to me.
people are Native American.
We had been given information about an anonymous letter that had been written in 1952, suggesting that if there was to be a recovery of tombstones from that Darky cemetery, they should look in the stone pile north of the school. And so our project was...
So I'm thinking, I'm wondering if, well, I know for sure those graves that they consecrated, I know that they probably date back way farther back than 300 years. But my whole thing is, through this genocide, straight up, they just trying to tuck away and hide all the scum that they've done. Like, seriously, I'm trying to figure out where... At what point do somebody stand up like, yo, this shit is not right? Just like the guy in the beginning of the video, who at least kept it real. He had to put it in a form of a childish question. If somebody steal your gun, did they steal your gun? And it's like, yo, of course you did, and you know you did. It's some serious, for a motherfucker who think ain't nothing wrong with them, I'm talking about as far as, you got people who just carry on in the world business, in the business world, I mean corporate world, medical, legal. Like, I just really feel like America has a mental disorder altogether for somebody not to stand up. And it's like, at this point, there's so much information out. You can't duck and dodge it. That's sad. It's sad, yo. All those bodies, and they out there playing baseball with the fucking tombstones and shit.
To remove the stone pile, to see if it had been used as a place to hide broken tombstones.
Well, it was a very emotional day. There were quite a few of us there working, digging those stones by hand and throwing them into the truck.
Well, I actually found the first piece. I worked around gravel all my life, and I recognized stone that's had human hands to it. And I saw a small piece that had obvious markings on the edge of it. Turned out to be the very edge piece and a small corner piece of the tombstone of a man named Chauncey Simmons. Actually, Chauncey's son, Christopher. And Christopher died of one of the many epidemics that went through the area and killed people indiscriminately, no matter what color they were. But the stone clearly identifies his parents' names on it. And so we have this magical connection where the book Broken Shackles talks specifically about Chauncey Simmons. It's a small leather-bound book that was published in 1889. I remember smiling a lot that day. I remember that piece spurred the group on.
Everyone was so excited that we had found a few stones with some names on. We were very, very happy that, we had proof that there was someone there, and because they said there was nothing there, that there's nothing there. And then when the 4 stones was found, Alexander, who was the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario.
You were on the committee who had the foresight to visit. Make something like this appropriate, I want to say. Is that a case? Okay.
I remember comments around at that time saying, you know, this is the evidence we've been looking for. This is the proof that we need. This is the connection with the past.
A surprising thing to us why the black people that are descendants from these people never showed up to do any of this back 60 years ago or 70 years ago, because normally when you know that you have a burial ground somewhere, you look after it yourselves. You don't just lie and then all of a sudden when
bro, they was pushed the fuck out. Then you just hear the lady.
All of a sudden want to jump in.
Oh yeah, the reason why there wasn't too much said is because our people weren't allowed out that way.
See?
Because from Owen Sound, and we wouldn't. You had to be careful when you went out that way because they just didn't want us out there.
You're not allowed in here.
There was what you call the imaginary boundary line, and was handed down, and you go by so-and-so, you're gonna feel sorry that you...
Yo, look this video up on YouTube. It's still like another half to go, so I'm not about to ride that whole thing out. It's very interesting. I'm pretty sure a lot of us haven't heard this history. Read in between the lines when you look at it. It's called Speakers for the Dead. Very educational and shocking nonetheless. Shouldn't shit shock me anymore, for real. Nothing should be shocking any longer. God damn it. When you fucking with the devil. Yo, but I'm out.